Oh, the weather outside is frightful. Also, the fire's also frightful. I don't know Christmas songs, but I do have quite the present for all of you. You know that one video that every PokeTuber has to make? An update every 5 years or so when their opinion changes? Well, I figured in the spirit of the holidays, I would give said video to you. I know. No need to thank me. No need to thank me. The algorithm needs it. It's time for the top 10 Pokemon that I really like. I don't think I'm going to have any rules for this top 10 either. Regardless if it's a starter or a legendary or doesn't exist canonically, I'm throwing all my opinions onto this list. Surprisingly, there are more Pokemon now than there were when Red and Blue came out, and I feel comfortable enough saying I like at least 10 of them. Now let's get this show on the road before that one commenter spoils that Treecko will be in the #1 slot. It's my top 10 favorite Pokemon. Number 10. As you can see, I'm letting the Pokemon speak for themselves. Let's be real, the Generation 7 Pokedex is goated. A lot of Alolan Pokemon could battle for number 10, but I elected to give a W to my little dapper owl friend Rowlet. What makes Rowlet good besides everything about it? Well, let's see. Perfectly plushable, very endearing, first grass type to have a competent grass move with leafage, also brute force its way to meme status by the unrelenting arsenal of images generated by the anime alone. It's just impossible to hate Rowlet. Sorry, it's physically impossible. I tested it. And let us not forget how good the line is as well. Decidueye, despite having one of the weirdest names ever, is certified cool. A grass ghost type that wears a hood and fires quills like arrows. Not to mention the bowstrings also close the hood like an actual jacket. This is just objectively a well-designed Pokemon. You can see the thought and passion put into Rowlet's line and the utter waste in how Incineroar was included in Smash Bros. Over it. Not apologizing. The line had a theme too. We witnessed Rowlet grow up from a well-dressed proper fella to having those angsty teenage years to finally landing in a spot he's comfortable with. Gotta say, isn't it neat that Rowlet started with a bow and ended with a bow? There's a reason Pokemon is the highest grossing franchise in history. Number 9. Best modern Pokemon. Wait, can I even say that? Oh no, it's been a decade. Okay, best 3D era Pokemon. Seriously, Greninja is just so good. Everything about it is already iconic. To put it into perspective, Ash Ketchum had been established for 16 years prior to Greninja, and yet when people think of Ash's most popular Pokemon, it's usually his Greninja. It's kind of crazy how much staying power this Pokemon had. It was designed for success. It had been chosen for Super Smash Bros. Before X and Y even released. Game Freak knew how well Greninja was going to pop off. And pop off it did. Call me a contrarian, but I'm usually against designs being so heavily choreographed to be your next favorite Pokemon. Look at you, Cinderace. And Game Freak gave Greninja so much to work with, including the best ability in the game, Protean, a sick black shiny coloration, and its own Mega Evolution. That's totally not a Mega Evolution, we promise. The worst part is, it worked. I love this guy. It's just such a clever and awesome Pokemon to have. Unapologetic in how amazingly epic it is, yet how wholesome and cute it could be as well. Everything a Pokemon strives to be. The only criticism I hear against Greninja is that his tongue scarf thing is gross. But it's a frog. It's literally just a frog tongue. You can't expect animals to be sanitary. Number 8. Number 8 is D-O-G-E-R-S. Dogaz! But I noticed Koffing. Most people notice Smogon though. Koffing is just so hyped to be Koffing, and you gotta respect it. Ever since I saw James of Team Rocket use Koffing as his partner, it was love at first sight. Seeing Koffing serve as the dedicated smoke bomb was just so entertaining, especially when it was always in conjunction with him exclaiming his favorite caffeinated beverage. Coffee! I just find it so hilariously adorable how toxic Koffing is. Literally having a skull and crossbones on him, but he couldn't be any more friendly if you tried. Yes, I do realize at the end of the day, Koffing is just a ball. But if you were going to create Pokemon that look like spheres, Koffing is how you do it. And hey, I love Weezing as well. It's so oddly strange and creative. I cherish it for how unique it is. Seriously, what other Pokemon are like Koffing and Weezing? I can't think of a single one. Now all we need is a proper evolution of Weezing. How far can we stretch this design? What would it even be called? Hacking. Like you're hacking. Like you're hacking from a cough. I think I'm evolving into recoiling. Number 7. Hold position. We've found ourselves the best Pokemon in the Galar region. Seriously, these boys convinced me to buy Sword and Shield. I really don't know what it is about orb-shaped Pokemon with stubby limbs, but I can't get enough of them, I guess. Falinks is so creative. They're a group of, well, nothing. They're just little Kirby enemies. I've seen the argument they resemble bugs, but hopefully I never see bugs that look quite like this. Or any bugs for that matter. I don't like bugs. I'm weak to bug type. Falinks feels like a callback to that fun Generation 1 design philosophy, mostly because they aren't based on any animal or object. They're just Falinks. Oh, also it's because there's multiple of them. I thought that design trope was left behind in Kanto. Like, how do multiple Pokemon fit into one Pokeball? Universe-breaking physics aside, let's take a look at what Falinks is all about. They're soldiers, bro, willing to fight and faint under your direct command. And even though their bark is far worse than their bite, you just gotta admire their moxie. They're perfectly in sync all the time. Whether it be walking, running, or gaining your affection, Falinks are always at their absolute best. How can you not appreciate that? Oh, wait, hold up. Yeah, they told me they're marching until Black and White 3 are announced. Number 6. Bro, making a Pokemon based on a dragonfly was such a good idea that Game Freak did it twice in a row. And yet neither of them are dragon bug types. And we have yet to get a dragon bug type. Talk about not picking the low-hanging fruit. Wait, where was I? Oh right, Flygon. In a time where dragons were a pretty rare commodity, Flygon really made an impact as the sole wielder of the Dragon Ground typing, which admittedly is a better typing than Dragon Bug. I'm just speaking with the benefit of hindsight in mind. I don't really need to explain why I like Flygon so much, do I? Just look at him, a big old green dragon with goggles. To this day, probably my favorite dragon type that isn't a legendary. In fact, whenever I use Flygon, it's my designated flyer. Don't tell me the HM isn't that good on it. It's literally called Flygon. You have to. And let me just say, the utter satisfaction you get from using Earthquake with Flygon is immaculate. I never get bored having one on my team. His family is pretty cool too. Vibrava's fun, and Trapinch is so oddly hilarious. Just a weird little orange thing that can learn Hyper Beam. Not joking about that, by the way. My heart will always go out to the tiny homie from New Pokemon Snap, losing out to the apple because of his brother. Oof.
Do you have any apple, brother? I am quite famished.
Sorry brother, I've already begun eating the apple.
I have very few apple, brother. I must procure yours.
Nature is beautiful. Number 5. Whoops, did I just include 2 epic green Pokemon right next to each other on my top 10 Pokemon list? I think I did. It's okay though, Tyranitar aged better than Flygon. Don't shoot the messenger here. Seriously, with how strange a Johto Pokedex could be, I'm surprised they actually made a pseudo-legendary that stood the test of time. Tyranitar is 100% one of the coolest Pokemon ever for me. The fact that it backs up all that power it claims to have is just the cherry on top. Just take one look at this guy and tell me you wouldn't take him seriously. You can't. Unless you knew him during his awkward years in high school. Pupitar was a victim of puberty. Side note, but just shrinking Tyranitar down to make Larvitar was so good. Call me easy to please, but that is just instant plush status. Would pledge to protect. It's just too tempting to not kick some butt with the Larvitar family at your side. He makes for the perfect overpowered starter that you have to trade for because you can't get one until late game. I can't begin to tell you how many times I've used him. Even when I say, not this playthrough, Tyranitar slowly finds his way back into my life. Most recently was when he returned as a metal robot, and the time before that was when he returned as a metal robot. Number 4. I hope everyone is ready for the YouTube equivalent of stretching an essay to make word count. Bruh, I have trouble describing why I love Bonsly so much. I really do. It's so simple. It's just so simple. It's just a walking potted plant with 3 little branches and a hole I won't talk about. The funniest part about Bonsly, though, is I'm pretty sure Game Freak might have that same love for it that I do. Now, you might just jot it down as love for Sudowoodo, which I get, but you can't just ignore Bonsly's existence. Bonsly has been available in every single Switch game since Dexit. It always makes the cut for the regional Pokedex. Someone at Game Freak loves this tree, and I love them. Not to mention, Bonsly was always used to hint at the coming Sinnoh region. Back in Gen 3, Game Freak was really into foreshadowing the next game. We saw Pokemon like Munchlax, Weavile, Lucario, and of course Bonsly. Which leads me to my next point. See, I grew up with Pokemon XD, and Bonsly was featured as a brand new Pokemon in it. It was just so fun to see. A little guy with stubby legs that just wants to play bingo with you. From then on, I knew I had to grab a Bonsly in every single game. To see the sprite, to see the animations, to hear that cry. Bonsly, my friend, my joyful tears for you are not fake. Number 3! Could you believe me that in the 14 years of Pokemon we had up to that point, no legendary really hit for me? I mean, yeah, Mewtwo was awesome, Lugia was a classic, Groudon was a cool lava dinosaur, and Palkia was there. But when I saw Reshiram and Zekrom for the first time, I sort of just sat there in awe. Nothing felt like them before. They didn't feel like Pokemon, they felt beyond that. Like these two were very important. But how? When Pokemon Black and White dropped, I went with Black version. Reshiram just appealed to me more, and the white color against that background looked amazing. Probably one of my favorite covers in the series, in fact. After experiencing that amazing intro, I discovered something very interesting. Reshiram. Just Reshiram. There it was. All the title screens in the past had silhouetted their mascot legendaries, but not here. It was like Reshiram was by your side from the beginning. Every time I booted up the game and continued my adventure, I was reminded that Reshiram was still out there, somewhere, waiting for me. Needless to say, I was floored when this was actually confirmed as a plot point. N formed his bond with Zekrom and told me to do the same with Reshiram. Getting the Light Stone and having it rest in your bag while you carried on just built anticipation. That day where I could meet Reshiram was coming, and when the best climax in Pokemon, up to that point anyway, had me obtain Reshiram in a guaranteed catch, there was no going back. Reshiram and I were comrades for life. We defeated N in a battle of truth versus ideals, and proceeded to annihilate what little post-game there was. The legendary dragons of Unova are really a lesson in how much presentation matters. Everything about them is awesome. Their intros, their lore, their Fusion Flare alone got me the chills when I first used it. And if that wasn't enough, Reshiram has a second signature move it gets at level 100 called Blue Flare. Game Freak didn't need to do that, but they did that for us. Yeah, I'm not kidding when I say Black and White rejuvenated my love for the Pokemon franchise. And that's in no small part to the role Reshiram and Zekrom played. The future of Pokemon looks so bright until I realized the franchise kinda peaked and had nowhere to go. Sigh. Number 2! Oh, Gallade, what a time you and I have had. It's a hard feeling to describe when you're able to just look at a Pokemon and remember all your nostalgic adventures with them. Out of every single Pokemon I've used Gallade the most. He was my companion through thick and thin. I can prove it too. Nearly every region Gallade was available has been mined completely for Dawnstones, and I can promise you those weren't used to get Frostlass. My love for Gallade started as most people's do, I'm sure, in Pokemon Platinum. It was the Sinnoh game that actually let you have fun and use the cool new evolutions introduced in Generation 4. I still don't get why Diamond and Pearl did that. Oh well, at least it was never repeated. Let me tell you, finding a male Ralt and training it up to reach the plateau that was Gallade, I wasn't ready for the result. I just figured, oh cool, I'll use a Gallade, why not? Goes without saying that I was absolutely floored when the Gallant Knight arrived, with Psycho Cuts and close combats to absolutely decimate whatever stood in my way. Holy crap, Gallade style. There's never a dull moment with this Pokemon. He's just so cool, it hurts. I love Gardevoir as much as the next creepy Pokemon fan, but Gallade is my guy. Number 1, Treecko. Okay, I know everyone's expecting some sort of sarcastic joke, so I'm just gonna play this completely straight. My number 1 favorite Pokemon is Treecko. Allow me to sing the praises of this little Pokemon. Believe it or not, Treecko was not my first starter. I know! How does one see the T-posing lizard and not pick him? Nah, my love for Treecko started with Mystery Dungeon. In Red Rescue Team, you can take a quiz that judges you for your personality. For some reason, I actually didn't spoof this. I wanted to be honest, and the game made me a Treecko. I did like Treecko, so I went with it. And boy, seeing all the reactions and emotions Treecko has in the game is so endearing. It really helped push him to the forefront of being the best Hoenn starter for me. So after experiencing that masterpiece of a video game, I was all in. I even decided to go back to Hoenn and actually pick Treecko now. I was much more into doing playthroughs with Torchic and Mudkip. Can you blame me? Look at him. And after evolving it into Grovyle for the first time, I tried out its signature move, Leaf Blade. my mind was blown. And yes, I do realize Treecko himself does not get Leaf Blade, but my appreciation for Treecko goes far past the first stage. The entire family is just so good. Grovyle and Sceptile are perfect, especially Grovyle, cause holy smokes, we all know the plight of middle stage starters. They're usually awkward, but Grovyle surpasses all expectations. Dare I say, it's cooler than Sceptile. And Sceptile is still so cool. That cry, those sprites, that one time it became a dragon and never did it again. I just gravitate towards Treecko because the connection. Mystery Dungeon meant the world to me, and I experienced it through the eyes of Treecko. Not to mention its design is just so perfect. I know everyone compares it to the Geico lizard, but we all know that those were the best commercials on television. I don't even mind the late game where the rescue team base is completed, so it becomes a giant head in the shape of whatever Pokemon you picked. I lived in the giant Treecko head. No regrets. Okay, honestly, I found the head quite creepy, but I wanted to end the video on a positive note. And that's it, my top 10 favorite Pokemon. Really just goes to show how much I care for this franchise and continue to do so. I legitimately toiled and struggled to come up with candidates for my top 10 favorites. And I had to make some hard calls like not including Celebi, or Deoxys, or Leafeon. And you know, the two other best starters, Torchic and Mudkip. There's like 1,000 Pokemon now, and it's exciting to see the Pokemon world grow and expand. Wherever you landed in the Pokemon world, whatever time you did so, you should let me know who your favorites are in the comments down below. I legitimately have so much fun hearing what other trainers' favorites are. Although, if I had to make a hard guess, most people are going to say Charizard. Unless people are sick of Charizard. That's a thing that's happening. Wait, where did I rank Charizard? Number 11? Special thanks to my top tier patrons, Chansey, TerrorXD, Wheezy, and Mr. Elamode.